Oh, the humanity to permission to get techier than techie things today. Because first on the docket, we have to talk about Sir Lewis Hamilton and the furore as far as social media. Rising tide floats all F1 boats et al. Second topic on the docket, we need to talk about this F1 rule amendment, right? How it might affect the drivers, why they've done it, and why so many F1 fans are calling bull feathers on Mohammed Ben Sulayem and his reign now of terror. Are we talking about Stalin's Russia? What is this? Authoritarianism in F1? Surely there is no place for it. First topic on the docket, Angela Cullen spotted properly this time in the Ferrari garage. Oh, the humanity. This means that Lewis Hamilton is serious now, bringing back people with whom he experienced unprecedented success. Lest we forget 2016 settings. That was when Angela Cullen made her introduction into the Sir Lewis Hamilton team. 17 to 18, 19 and 2020. That's when she left. Those were four of Lewis Hamilton's most successful years in Formula One. Lewis Hamilton needs familiar people around him, does he not? Loic Serra, D'Ambrosio. This is a new circumstance, and indeed there will be lap time in aforementioned familiarity. Angela Cullen is a close, confident counsel, personal trainer, physio, etc., etc. A woman of many talents. Lewis Hamilton has said on a gazillion occasions that he doesn't know anybody as committed and dedicated to their craft as Angela Cullen. She's now back in the camp officially, and there are the photos to accompany and of Sir Lewis Hamilton. Can we speak to the level of superstardom and mainstream crossoverdom that we've seen, if indeed that's a word, that we've seen over the past 72 hours? This is his first week at Ferrari, and many people have said that this is just business, that Ferrari got him with a view to grow their brand, build it into a luxury brand, no longer a sports car brand. Scuderia Ferrari with the yellow badge atop of it, the black prancing horse. Proof positive of that, some say, was the share price that as soon as they announced that Sir Lewis was going to be a Scuderia Ferrari driver, all of a sudden the share price did one of these. We know now that that was by dint of two different things happening at the same time concurrently. The fact that they announced gangbusters quarterly results, and so too the Lewis Hamilton announcement. Those things acted in tandem to make Scuderia Ferrari's share price do one of these. Now though, we're seeing the substance behind it. The wheels have met the road. Check this out. Your Exhibit A. Look at the newspapers in Italy. That's all that anybody's talking about this week. There was no other news, and not back pages either. These are the front pages. Lewis Hamilton is a crossover superstar as an F1 peddler, if ever you have seen one. Oh, and by the way, further proof, here's your Exhibit B. Check out the social media numbers. This is chaos. Don't take my word for it. The numbers speak for themselves, right? We'll go from right to left here. When he posted the picture of the Ayrton Senna-esque helmet, 2 million likes, 12.7k comments. The picture in the middle, 5.4 million likes, 5.8k comments. What are we doing here, chat? This is unprecedented scenes in F1. Lest we forget that F1 still, some argue, isn't a mainstream sport, notwithstanding Drive to Survive et al. Picture on the left. This is Lewis in the bloody red overalls with the yellow badge and the black prancing horse. Now 4.2 million likes, 75,000 comments. What are we doing here, chat? This is absolute bonkers. Unprecedented scenes in F1. Yeah, once a time it was Michael Schumacher, fog settings 1996 when he joined. But this is different now. That then was not the social media era. It is that now, and this is chaos from Sir Lewis. A rising tide indeed floats all F1 boats, and we are seeing that now in real time, and people have done studies on this. A cheeky breakdown. Let me enlarge my screen so I can talk to this courtesy of sponsor Vitix, or however you pronounce their name, is how much incremental income that this picture meant to them, how much advertising value they gained out of Lewis Hamilton posing like this. This was the record-breaking one though, Lewis Hamilton posing in the red overalls with the yellow badge and the black prancing horse atop. HP, title sponsor, look how much they got courtesy of this picture, 62.1k in terms of advertising revenue. That's US dollars. Biggest winners. Okay, so they've got the biggest logos, so that would make sense. IBM 48k, Ferrari 50k, Shell 52.1k. This, ladies and gentlemen, is chaos. What are we doing here? Lewis Hamilton at this point is nothing if not an industry, and it would make sense. Yeah, he's a good looking chap, and yeah, he does all these other things, but I never thought I would see an F1 driver make this level of impact. Not even Lewis Hamilton in them red overalls joining Scuderia Ferrari. This is too chaos for me. I don't even know what to make it. Of course, I'm invested in F1 as far as performance over and above everything else. But imagine for a second, put on your rose-tinted glasses and your Sir Lewis Hamilton cap for a second. Imagine that Lewis can deliver upon this promise in addition to all the mainstream marketing success. Oh, the humanity. I cannot cope. Oh, and by the way, final topic on the topic. We need to talk to this. New rules and regs. Instituting new punishments around expletives. What are we doing here? Sharrison, this makes no sense. I know, but yeah, no, I agree. Those numbers are bonkers, mate. Proof positive, if ever you needed it, that Lewis Hamilton is a different level of mainstream superstar. This is chaos. 4 million likes. Unprecedented. Breaking the previous record holder, who, by the way, was modern day journalese Charles Leclerc. And by the way, new penalties as far as expletives and colourful language. And this, ladies and gentlemen, matters. Forgive me for going scorched earth, but I preface everything I'm about to say with this for context and table setting. Mohammed Ben Sulayem, as the head of the FIA, is no longer fit for purpose, has not been fit for purpose for the longest time. Disbanding the audit committee, the team that was set in place, set there to tick and cross their homework. The audit committee was set to institute guardrails around the FIA to ensure that they're acting in a way that's true and fair and proper. Mohammed Ben Sulayem said, enough of that, chaps. 2 of 4 of the audit committee. No, you can go away. I've got this. What are we doing? And the irony is not lost on me. The FIA is set there to institute the regulations in a way that's fair and consistent. They should be leaning into an audit committee, not disbanding them. This is nothing if not ironic. So too, Mohammed Ben Sulayem was the dude that a couple of years ago wanted to reinstitute Fernando Alonso on the podium that Aramco sponsored Fernando Alonso at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Yeah, they threw it out initially and said that the investigation was true and fair and transparent. But where was that? Where were the findings? They will never be declared to the public. And again, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, each and every annual statement wants to talk about transparency. Where is that, ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury? Nowhere to be seen, I would contend. How about conflict of interest gate? Susie Wolf. That court case in French courts is still going on in the background, by the way. How can you do that? Talk about somebody who's so glowing in the sport, their reputation, so openly and disparagingly without evidence, true and fair and honest and transparent. What happened to that? How dare Mohammed Ben Sulayem celebrate the Bahrain Grand Prix anniversary with a picture of Prince Andrew and Max Mosley, two people who didn't exactly have a glowing reputation, and we're talking about true and fair and honest, leading the proper life. This is the dude, by the way, who talked about we're not rappers, ergo we need to be role models. Therefore, what are we talking about? This is the dude who's talking about DE and I trying to take F1 to new growth markets. What, ladies and gentlemen, are we doing here? This, by the way, is the head of the FIA who hired a gazillion people with a view to change the image of the FIA. A gazillion people, all of whom, by the way, have since left the organisation. Why? Because there is no talking to the head of the FIA. He doesn't take counsel. You can't constructively challenge him therefore, and that, ladies and gentlemen, has to be a problem, especially when the primary remit and scope of the FIA, and so the head of it, is to make sure that the rules are set, fair, instituted across all related parties in a way that's consistent, and also safeguarding those participants of the sport. Those two things surely at this juncture, bearing in mind what we've seen and heard of the head of the FIA, these two things are mutually exclusive, are they not? They cannot coexist. Is he even allowed to use scissors? This is nonsense. And it wouldn't be so bad, all the attention seeking and keeking with the winning driver of the Grand Prix. It wouldn't be so bad if indeed he was nailing the things and the organisation was doing exactly what it was set there to do in the first place. They can't even adjudicate what a full start is, for Pete's sake. Lando Norris and Checo Perez both did one last year. No foul, no penalty. But we're here talking about expletives. That's what they want to focus on. Where are the few full-time stewards that we keep talking about? Oh, you haven't got the money to give to them because you're busy building a $1.35 million US presidential fund, using which Mohammed Ben Sulayem is set to leverage influence to ensure that he maintains his position at the elections in December of this year. I cannot make on Adbaka, you're a legend. Thank you for joining the channel, but I cannot with this dude. And I say all of that to say this. I know we talked about it earlier, but Andrew Benson has wrote it, one of the decent ones. For the avoidance of doubt, all F1 publications are created equally, but some are created more equal than others. And Andrew Benson is one of the go-toest ones, BBC's own. He's written an article infinitely more comprehensive than anything else that we've read today. Here's what he said. F1 drivers face bans for criticising the ruling body. F1 drivers face bans if they repeatedly swear or criticise the sport's governing body under new rules introduced this year. I cannot even keep a straight face, Sharrison. MBS, why FIA doesn't get the respect it deserves? I mean, he's part of it, right? Front and central, instrumental in that characterisation, some might say, Sharrison. But I digress. Benson continues. Changes to the FIA sporting code for the 2025 season codify the steps of potential race bans for drivers deemed guilty of such offences. Race bans? Are you going to spoil the competitive landscape? I thought, ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury, in my noddy F1 mind, that the FIA was set fair as their primary purpose to level the competitive landscape, to ensure that we got a true and fair competition over the course of a 24 race season, not to influence it unfairly. What are you talking about? Race bans for swearing, for doing what drivers have been doing since 1950. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Yeah, like I'm lost for words. I fail to understand. There is something missing in the way that I ingest this news. Now, apparently Martin Brundle has said he agrees with this change of rule and reg, but he's an old school chap, so I forgive him that. Far for it to be me to talk against Martin Brundle, but as I ingest that through the lens of trying to get closer to the drivers, get closer to F1 in real time, surely this is putting barriers between what happens in the car and in the driver's press conference, the official FIA one, and us as viewers, F1 fans, F1 fan base as a community. Surely, tell me if you think I'm wrong. Benson continues. They mean that if a driver commits 3 such offences, they are at risk of a 1-month suspension plus deduction of championship points. Nothing if not draconian, surely, at this juncture. The GPDA said that they had no comments on this matter for the time being. Yeah, because they can't talk about it, right? Imagine George Russell talks up now and criticises the FIA and gets a 1-month ban at some point down the road. That's not set fair. Benson continues, a source close to one top driver told BBC Sports the move was, quote, ridiculous, adding, the FIA president Mohammed Ben Sulayem acts like a dictator. Stalin's Russia, any? Totalitarianism, authoritarianism, any? But in F1, as a sporting endeavour, there is no place for that, surely. This dude has to learn how to take counsel. I remember a friend of the channel, Matt Bishop, tweeting out that he needs PR training, because you go head to head with too many related parties, too many influential related parties, by the way. And that's only going to work out to the downside. That can't be positive. Journalists in particular, If you have too much friction with journos, you're only going to get them to come harder at you, making your life more difficult. Therefore, Jean Todt didn't do that. And of course, Todt had his faults coming before Mohammed Ben Sulayem, but he did it. Why would you make your life more difficult than it is? FIA as a regulatory body already has as its remit, not quite impossible, close. It's always going to be difficult. The sport of F1 is characterised by shades of grey. Benson continues, multiple sources have told the BBC that a lot of people at the FIA were against the move, but yeah, the problem with that is Mohammed Ben Sulayem doesn't listen, doesn't take counsel, doesn't listen to his advisors nor the people around him. Constructive challenge is met indeed by being relinquished of your duties, hence why there is no longer an audit committee. What are we doing here? One source said it was pushed through on a snap e-vote. Snap e-vote. FIA, what are we doing here? And with no consultation with other stakeholders or the GPDA or the FIA's own drivers' commission. So you're just pushing through the decisions without consulting anybody. Yeah, of course. This is a jury of one. Nothing if not Stalin's Russia is where we're at now. And I think that's dangerous, chat. Benson continues, another said it was not right to act in this way and questioned why this could not have been scheduled for discussion at the next meeting of the World Motorsport Council, WMSC. Well, of course it could, but we have a dictator at the helm of the FIA, right? And that can only go one way. In long form. Benson continues, the change marks the latest in a series of moves by the FIA which have been seen as attempts to stifle dissent or criticism by Mohammed Ben Sulayem, head of. The most recent was a set of changes to the FIA statutes that opponents said would reduce accountability at the FIA, which were introduced in December at the end of the year, in which a series of allegations had been made about the conduct of Mohammed Ben Sulayem. That's what we're talking about with the audit committee. There were 4 members of that disbanded too and sacked off the committee altogether. Therefore, who checks the FIA's work as the regulatory body of $1 billion sports enterprise franchise that is Formula One? No. Body, they are a law unto themselves now, as at January of 2025. But I digress. They come less than 2 months later after GPDA director, the Mercedes F1 driver, said he and his colleagues were a bit fed up with the FIA leadership, lest we forget the statement that the GPDA made, begging the FIA to just treat the drivers as equals, adults, stop treating them as children. Them, of course, being the main asset, the key asset in the F1 crown. The sport is nothing without the drivers, for the avoidance of that. So what are we doing here? Failing to prioritise them. I've argued this before and I will argue it again. There is no way that the drivers cannot have voting rights. How? They're the most impacted by this level of incompetence. What are we doing here? Benson continues, for international, and this is the choker. Look, this is the deal breaker. For international level drivers, a first offence is punishable by €40,000. That's 33k GBP. A second offence, €80,000. A third offence, potentially €120,000. That's 101,000 Great British pounds. What are we doing here, Una? And Una, you're a legend, by the way, out here gifting 5 memberships. But what are we doing here? This makes no sense. This feels like more money into the coffers of the FIA, the presidential fund in inverted commas, using which this dude's trying to ensure that he can maintain his position as the head of FIA. This just feels wrong all over the shop. If indeed you are a sensible organisation, a sensible regulatory body worth its mettle, that's unconcerned and or affected by regulatory capture, concerned primarily with doing its job, making sure that robust processes are instituted and followed in a way that's consistent across all related parties, then you don't have time for all this nonsense. These guys remind me of the dog in the fire meme. Like, there are big fires to put out as far as the FIA. It is a big job in scope and substance, an important one, therefore. And they're out here talking about expletives. Rewrite the whole bloody route. I tell you what's going to happen, yeah? If we end up with it's convergence, right? This by all accounts is meant to be one of the greatest season in 2025. James Vowles has said it. You've heard similar from Toto, the boy who cried wolf. God forbid we have a close season like we had in 2021. And these guys can't pull their finger out of their own ASS, because Houston, we will have ourselves another problem. It will be another Abu Dhabi 2021. I promise you, sadly. Shavson says they don't make them like Max Mosley. I know he wouldn't stand for it. And he had his faults, did Max. He wasn't perfect, but I just don't see this sort of stuff happening. More of a people person, right? Manage these things in real time. Oh, and by the way, to bookend Benson's very good article on the BBC, I'll link it below so you guys can go and read it yourselves. There are two key clauses in the sporting code which will concern the drivers. The first, the definition of a breach as the general use of language, written or verbal, gesture and or sign that is offensive, insulting, coarse, rude or abusive, and might reasonably be expected or be perceived to be coarse or rude, to cause offence, humiliation, or to be inappropriate, plus assaulting, elbowing, kicking, punching, hitting, and incitement to do any of the above. What are we doing here? Like, why do they write these bloody rules and stipulation like this? Nobody can't understand that. What's going on? Too much word salad for no bloody reason. They continue. And forbidding of any words, deeds or writings that have caused moral injury or loss to the FIA, its bodies, its members or its executive officers, and more generally on the interest of motorsport and on the values defended by the FIA. What does that mean? Word salad. Write your bullet points punchy and in a way that's transparent and easily understood. Surely, at this juncture, this is what I'm saying about the FIA. Their rules and regs, when you read them, Sporting Code of Conduct too, they both read as if a 5-year-old has penned them. Like, sort it out, FIA. You remember a couple of years back, they adjusted for their rules in the off season, but didn't amend them in real time, talking about the way that the white line that separates the pits from the proper black stuff, the racing line or whatever. They amended for it in the off-season, but didn't change the wording in the actual regs. What are we doing here? Offensive to who? Michael says, well, this is the point, chap. This is the point, and this is why they need to be ironclad as far as the way that they're writing the rules, lest we end up in another 2021 situation. Oh, and by the way, to bookend Andrew Benson's article, he says, earlier this week, before the changes emerged, Haas team principal Ayo Komatsu was asked a general question about his level of satisfaction with the FIA. He said, quote, "Don't write it in a headline. Ayo says the FIA is in a mess, but that's what everybody's thinking. That's what everybody experiences. I don't know what to say. It's not great, is it? Seriously?" Asked to expand on his remarks, Komatsu said, "I don't want to get into that political battle. Nobody wants to touch it. It's toxic. It's really, really insidious now. Like what are we doing here? I just want to rock up. I don't want to. The reason why people watch sport, and F1 in particular, is to separate themselves away from the seriousness of life, is it not? I just want to see Lewis go head to head with Max, two of the best peddlers that I've ever seen in life. I don't want to concern myself with this. I would rather not ever have to talk about it. It's too chaotic, and I'm glad that Red Bull have taken to social media and put this one out there. This, of course, reminiscent of the Jose Mourinho quote saying, "If I talk to this, I will get in trouble." This is what Red Bull put out on threads. If we speak, we will get in trouble. And I think this means that next year, Max Verstappen, not being a daft person, is going to be on his P's and Q's. He will do like he did last year in response to the F-bomb, the penalty that he received, the community service Rwanda, spend some time with some young up-and-comers. He'll be doing this every single time. You will recall when Max Verstappen got penalised for dropping a cheeky F-bomb in the heat of the moment at the FI drivers' press conference. Max Verstappen said, "You know what? I'm going to come to the press conference. I'm going to do like Marshawn Lynch did. I'm just here so I don't get fined. You're not going to get anything meaningful out of me." And during that press conference, Max Verstappen said nothing, full stops only, curtailed phrases. And who wins out of that? FIA. Millions are tuned in all around the world to hear Max Verstappen talk honestly and earnestly, to get an insight into the man, the driver that Max Verstappen is. What's the car doing? Understeer still? Are you confident in the car? Is the rear instability still there? How are you doing navigating the curves, Max Verstappen? This is one of the rare opportunities that we get as an F1 community to hear from the drivers. Now Max Verstappen, with his tail firmly between his legs, back up against the wall, peed off in real time. He's full stopping everything. No selling all the questions. So how does that help anyone, FIA? This needs solving though. Those rules are defunct, I would argue. Don't apply them to bloody... I know there needs to be a code of conduct, but is this it? And are the penalties commensurate therefore? So here's where we are, chap. This is what's going to go on into 2025 this year even. Max Verstappen is going to play the positions. He hasn't got time for this, and he doesn't want to get fined, nor does he want a one racing ban suspension, nor does he want a 1 month suspension, which is what they're arguing for here. So Max Verstappen is going to do what he did last year. He's going to do loads of press conferences in the public, away from the FIA. All the journos are going to have to get their Max Verstappen hot takes outside of the FIA driver's press conference, because he won't want to deal with all that nonsense. Max Verstappen is a £60 million driver per year. Why will he need to deal with that? And this isn't the only instance of the draconian institution of these rules and regulations. Lest we forget Jewelrygate and Sir Lewis Hamilton. Lest we forget the time at Qatar a couple of years back when Lewis Hamilton crossed the bloody track and got a £50,000 fine. This is draconian. This is nonsense. Surely at this stage the FIA need to do like Charlie Whiting used to, and have a relationship with the bloody drivers, foster rapport, kiss some babies sometimes. It can't be us and them all the time, sacrificing working relationships at the altar of attention seeking. It cannot be that. No, it should not be that. If indeed the FIA want to hold up their head and consider themselves even doing their job half of the time in a way that's competent and commensurate to the billion-dollar sporting enterprise that is Formula One. Let's go Maximilian Verstappen and the other 19 drivers on the grid, for they hold the red pen on this. FIA need to take 2 seats and Mohammed Ben Sulayem needs to take 10. What, ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury, are we doing here?